folks, and welcome to Tuneful Tuesday, and a very warm welcome to Tuneful Tuesday as well. What we've got here is a music magazine, and we'll be looking at a couple of CD reviews and a host of vinyl reviews. But to begin, we're looking at books. I'm going to start with a book written by the legendary David Hepworth. This one is called Overpaid, Oversexed, and Over There. Costs £20. Well, that was the price last time I looked. Published by Bantam, and you're looking at 314 pages. Now, Hepworth is a well-known figure in music. He's been a magazine publisher and editor for lots of legendary titles like Smash Hits, Mojo, and the like. Also co-presenter on the also legendary Old Grey Whistle Test, which was one of my favourite music shows back when, BBC Two. Hepworth is a music enthusiast, and he knows his stuff, and he likes a good story. And that's this book in a nutshell. That is, this book is full of music-based history, yet it's not a music history book. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, the book, which is subtitled How a Few Skinny Brits with Bad Teeth Rocked America, is in no way a work that even approaches academia. Hepworth won't have it because, well, that would harm the pace of his prose, and it's very nicely worded prose as well. And that pace is what this publication is all about. So, what you get is a story of how British music artists took, in the majority of cases, American-sourced music and I quote, sent it back with a twist. The result was the British invasion of 1964, spearheaded by the Beatles. The book then talks about how that invasion evolved and mutated to finally fizzle out somewhere around 1983, according to the author. Stars of the show, apart from the ever-present Fabs, included the likes of the Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, David Bowie, The Who, Elton John, and all the way up to the Sex Pistols, Elvis Costello, and Culture Club. Hepworth talks about how the artists changed the nature of American music and the American business, but also how American music and its inherent business culture changed the Brits. Sometimes for the better, possibly the Beatles, but not always. Rod Stewart. As I say though, Hepworth loves a good yarn, and there's plenty of music stories here that will entertain and make you smile. He's in such a rush though that he does trip up over the history sometimes. For example, Hepworth states that Bowie wrote the hunky-dory LP song Andy Warhol after his 1971 jaunt to the USA. Hepworth also states that Bowie failed to meet Andy Warhol while there. Yet there is easily sourced footage right now on YouTube, posted, I think it was 2007, showing hunky-dory era Bowie standing right next to Warhol himself in 1971. While in another YouTube video posted 2013, Bowie himself is on the record saying that he wrote the song before he met Warhol, then played it to the man himself, and Bowie called him a lethal Svengali figure, who responded with, and I quote again, oh yeah, that's great. That was his official response to the song. And actually, when Bowie said all of this, he placed a rather worried hand under his chin, and he said, and I quote, I don't know if he ever liked it or not. So there you are. Now, I just get the feeling that Hepworth has breezed through principal biographies of the figures in this book to get basic ammunition and a rough outline of each life story, and he sort of left it at that. As I say, this can result in issues such as the Bowie situation we've noted above. He also states that Britt Ekland met Rod Stewart at a party hosted by Joan Collins and her then husband. Yeah, sure, maybe that is the case. That could very well be it. But I've also seen other accounts of Britt meeting Rod on the internet, which basically said that Britt Ekland met Rod Stewart backstage after a concert at the Los Angeles Forum. So that's a second possible account. There is a third possible account in a 2010 interview with the website Wales Online, Wales as in the country which is part of the UK, that's also Wales, Wales Online. The interviewer stated as part of the background to the interview he was going to present, within that background he stated when Britt and Lou, which talking about Lou Adler, who was Britt's former husband, when Britt and Lou Adler split in 1975, it was Elizabeth Taylor, the famous actress, who introduced her to Rod Stewart to cheer her up. So, there's a third option. There's no discussion in this Hepworth book of the alternatives regarding the meeting, and there's no dissection of which one could be correct or not. But look, why should there be? Hey, why should Hepworth even bother? Because if he did, the pace of this book would grind to a shuddering halt, and the reader would suddenly start looking at his watch and wondering about the next bus. So, this is a book of entertainment, generally connected to facts. The sort of stories you'd swap with friends while down the pub. It passes the time, it does a great job in doing so as well. Now, I had a lot to say about that particular book. It wasn't brand new, I'd not long read it, it's been out a little while, but David Hepworth is a popular author in music terms, so I thought I'd give you an extended review on that one. This next one, is rather shorter. It's called The Police, The Adventures of Sting, Stewart and Andy, written by Caroline and David Stafford, published by Omnibus. You're looking at £20, and that's about 280 pages. Now, this book is a sort of warts and all account of the band's history, the ups and the downs, the relationship breakups and the splits, but there's plenty of core information here for the fans too. So, big breath, I never knew that Sting arrived to the band with a whopping great book of lyrics just ready to go. The lads also wondered whether the group's reggae outings demanded that Sting should affect a Jamaican accent. Imagine that. Also, the drum part on the hit single Message in a Bottle was assembled from 6 different parts. It's certainly a complex piece, and that doesn't surprise me. Next, well, organised by manager Miles Copeland, a New York prison photo op was interrupted by a New York detective asking the prison staff, and I quote, "How does it feel locking up a bunch of white guys for a change?" Then there was the time in Argentina when an overeager policeman tried to grab and assault a female fan, only to be kicked in the face by Andy Summers. The crowd went wild. They loved it. So, anyway, yeah, that kind of thing. This book is full of stories, full of events, full of being in a band like the Police. It's a cracking read. Got 2 CD reviews for you, and the first one, well, it's a bit of an old stager by the name of Charlie Ventura. This one comes from the UK audiophile outfit Jasmine, and the title is called Adventure with Charlie. Now, Ventura was active during the 40s and 50s as an alto sax player, and then later on the tenor sax, in which he settled upon for the duration. His entry into music came one day while working at the Philadelphia Navy Yard when he received an invitation to join the Gene Krupa Band, an event that was just a little uncommon, I'm sure you'll agree. Now, because he valued his regular weekly paycheck, he, and let this one sink in, turned Krupa down. Hang on, I've gone a bit dizzy. Now, Krupa, to his credit, didn't mutter obscenities and move on, but actually called him again for another go. This time, Ventura accepted and became a soloist, along with the likes of Roy Eldridge and singer Anita O'Day. I find Ventura an enigma because this was a guy who tried to deliver bop to a wider audience. He even ultimately ran a band called Bop for the People. But surely Ventura was a swing artist. Was the notion of bop a jazz style that he could capitalize upon, perhaps, realizing that maybe swing had had its day as a mass consumer music medium? Perhaps, and the move would certainly bring him into contact with some of the greats, including Benny Green, Charlie Parker and Buddy Rich. Ventura's work was down to earth, but never shoddy. His solos were clean. You can hear that on Adventure with Charlie, initially produced by the King label in 1957, with the likes of John Coates Jr. on keys, Billy Bean on guitar, Gus Nemeth on bass, and Tony DiNicola on drums. The players contrast, but also complement. The music blends ballads with mid-tempo movers. On the CD, you also get Gene Krupa Jazz Trio live at the Bandbox from January 1953, recorded live at New York's Old Birdland, which is a useful bonus for the fans. Next up, we're looking at a pair of CDs from the electronica artist 1I2C. We're looking at Voices in My Head on Pink Dolphin and 10 Chords from the man's own label. The first of the two newly released albums, Voices in My Head, is a new double album gatefold limited to just 100 copies. That's right, 100 copies. And that is exclusive to CD, and that does put a smile on my face because I'm happy to see a bit of love come CD's way. Vocals are included, unusually for 1I2C. You normally hear instrumentals from the man, but he has vocals on this particular album. The albums come from three unfortunate ladies, unfortunate because I'm going to try and actually pronounce their names, so I apologize now. The names are Ditsia Yella, Irene Musique, and Lara Dennis. Again, my apologies. Apparently included with this CD is a download of 1I2C's previous album, Special X, although I didn't see that extra within my own review sample. This album is 1I2C's determination to do a vocal-orientated album, and well, I have to say I quite disliked it. In fact, I disliked it intensely. I was actually annoyed. I felt the lyrics and vocals shipped in by 1I2C's collaborators actually diluted the power of 1I2C's music, which I normally find affecting, moving and powerful on its own. The voices and lyric work on this release moved this 1I2C album to the Me Too pile, or worse, the youth circuit. I found them superfluous. Yes, there are instrumental versions of a lot of the vocal output on disc 2, but I feel that these are compromised because they're made with vocals in mind, which skews their inherent structure in the first place. There are spotted highlights here, but not really enough. Now, 10 Chords, the album 10 Chords, is intriguing because I feel this notes a progression of the 1I2C direction from a largely Tangerine Dream-esque signature style to one that's infused with a certain amount of anger, this time anger in the artist himself. There's a more industrial feeling, speaking more of angles, resistance, energy, force, and a sense of the harsh, the unyielding, and the fractious. Whether this reflects commercial considerations or reactions to personal events, I ain't sure. It's an intriguing move though, and one to keep an eye on. See what I did there? And I'll finish off with some vinyl news. And we're looking at Gov't Mule and the release of Heavy Load Blues. This bluesy, hard rockin' grizzled jam band is back, and we're going blues covers and blues originals with this one. Heavy Load Blues arrives as a double album gatefold on the Fantasy label, and I'll put a link below if you want to pursue it. The album itself looks back at Elmore James, Junior Wells, Howlin' Wolf, and more. This is blues weighed heavy with emotion, with slow application, scratchy guitars, and smoky Hammond organs. It's packed with emotion, the sort that accumulates like mud on an old tyre. Next up, we're looking at Poppy Ackroyd. Now, Ackroyd messes with instruments' heads. Sure, she plays the violin and she plays the piano, but this London-born, Brighton-based composer often attacks them with drumsticks and also picks and scrapes them with her fingers. She plays instruments like some people do gardening. On the album Pause from One Little Independent, a neoclassical outing, Ackroyd is gentle, she is caring, attentive, sometimes rather hesitant, always looking towards the music itself. Next up we have Jarvis Cocker with the French titled Chanson d'Ennui Tip Top. This is the man's first solo LP in 12 years. Using the Wes Anderson film, The French Dispatch, as inspiration, it offers covers of a dozen French classics. Cocker is well suited to the melodrama emanating from much of this material. I'm not sure if I can take Cocker's breathy faux French seriously though, because I'm not convinced he is. Oh, and Stereolab's look out for Laetitia Sadier on Parole Parole. For our next selection, we're looking at the self-titled album from First Boy on the Moon. This Swedish rock-pop combo offers plenty of jaunty, mid to high tempo, hook-laden, bouncy, arm-waving, skippy rock that will put a smile on your face. You'll end up making your coffee to the rhythm of this album, you mark my words. And now on to the Waterboys and a reissue of the 1990 album Room to Roam, which is spread over 2 discs within a rather nice gatefold. This release has had the full treatment though. Abbey Road has been all over this one, giving it the half-speed treatment, so you need to play it at 45 RPM. The upshot is a boost in sound quality. As for the album itself, well, it takes a step back from the magnificence and the big music of the likes of The Whole of the Moon and comes over, well, all introspective, introverted, and self-absorbed, with a scoop of the Celtic in approach. There's a real folk-ish atmosphere on this one. And now we're looking at the band called Soup, and they have an album called Visions. Now, the edition I have was limited to 100 copies, but I'm sure there's other less limited versions of the album out there. The one I had is presented on marble blue vinyl with a shiny holographic rainbow laminate gatefold sleeve. You can add a 16-page photo booklet and a single piece of artwork into that package. Well, this is a concept piece of Norwegian prog, and it's a grand approach. Uplifting set pieces are never afraid to hang off an epic hook for a long time, nor is this album afraid to hit either side of the dynamic range. There's ballads here, and there's also lots of grandeur and oodles of complexity. I love it. And that's it, folks. Thank you very much for staying to the end of this video, and thank you for your support. If you haven't already done so, if I could ask you to click on the like and the subscribe buttons below, that would be a big help to keeping this channel moving. Check out below in the description for the chapter headings if you want to navigate around this video. You will also find links to my social media platforms, my Facebook group, which you're welcome to join, also my website, which has plenty of information you won't find on this channel. And if I can ask you to consider supporting me on Patreon, which keeps this channel alive and going. And thank you to my patrons who are doing that very thing right now. I think I can feel the vibes that they're doing it right now. So thank you very much for that support. It's much appreciated. Now I'll be back this weekend with another hi-fi related video, and if you are on Patreon you can see that video on Friday. There's a sort of early bird thing going on. Otherwise, if you're not on Patreon, I should be posting somewhere around Sunday-ish, and you should see the video then. I hope to see you then. It'd be great to have your company. Until that time, folks, bye bye for now.